Hello everybody, Ray Garner with Garner's Games. Here to do a weekly comic review for X-Men #1. This book is by MecKay, and Ryan Stegman is their artist. This book is set up to basically launch the new X-Men series. There's about 9 of them total. This is the very first one, and it spends most of the book basically doing groundwork. We kind of start off with, we're in Alaska, and this is Merle, Alaska, and the local police chief is coming over to this factory to be given a tour by Hank McCoy. And he basically spends the majority of the tour telling them how the X-Men are here to live in peace with the neighboring town and maybe try to help the neighboring town, and we're all good and we're nice. We got a gardener, we got a healer, I'm a scientist. And about halfway through the tour, Magnus shows up and lets her know that there's also a dragon up here, as he used the term he did, and he tells her point blank that he is not nice, he's not friendly, he is to be feared, and that his children of the atom will be allowed to flourish. And that's a very blatant threat that, if you don't cooperate with us, then you will answer to the master of magnetism. Very well done page. I really like the art, I like the style that was used in that page. The artist, his style does take a little bit getting used to, because it's kind of a American manga style would be the best comparison I could make. It's not a full American classic comic book art. It's not full anime manga style art. So it's kind of a quasi merger of that, and I like it. But it did take a little bit getting used to, because the characters do look a little different than what I'm used to seeing them. But while all that's going on the tour, Scott is on a rescue mission leading a group of X-Men. And his group is Psylocke, Kid Omega, Temper, Magic, and Juggernaut. Now, Temper and Kid Omega I'm not very familiar with. But apparently Kid Omega is a telepath, which of course I thought Psylocke was a telepath, and she still is apparently. So I don't understand it taking 2 psychers on one mission, but that's what they went with. They do a lot of tactical style attack to remove everything, and basically this organization that was leading the Sentinel threat in the last story arc in the Krakatoa era, and they're here to rescue Logan and 6 other mutants which have showed up. But as they find out, these 6 mutants are members of that organization, and their powers activated as adults, which of course that's not when mutants are supposed to activate. So obviously they figured out some way to activate latent mutant genes, and we'll be finding out more about that later. After the rescue, Wolverine basically informs them that he is done. He's done trying to work with teams. He's done trying to rebuild. He said, I never should have left the woods. That's the life I understood. Don't come looking for me, Slim. Which is an obvious setup for the new Wolverine #1 that will be coming out in a few weeks. We end with a threat coming to the town of a giant sentinel. And it was kind of either hit by acid, hit by rust, or something of that nature. Anyway, it's a great setup. The book gets a little narrative, would be the word I would use, as basically it's like, spend a lot of time explaining everything. Hey, this is what's happened, this is where we're at, this is where we're going. Even Scott's action-oriented story arc is basically to say, hey, these people are still a problem, they're doing something new, they're basically activating mutant genes in adults. So we need to do something about that. Setting up Wolverine because he's leaving. And of course, it's also going to lead to the setup of the other X-Men books, because basically after Krakatoa, the X-Men have no home, so they're basically trying to find individual spots. That's probably how we're going to end up with the X-Men New York. The Uncanny X-Men will probably be stationed somewhere else, and so on. Anyway, if you've never read X-Men before, this is the perfect book to get into it. It basically explains most everything. There'll be some like backstories that you have to wait on. If you have been reading, this is a continuation, but this is like a first episode of a new season when you didn't have a cliffhanger. It's like, okay, previously on X-Men, this kind of happened, and hey, this is kind of where we're going. So it's a perfect jumping on book. It's not going to blow your socks off as far as the overall story because it's all set up. Now, what it's going to set up will probably be really cool, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, check it out, and I'll see y'all next week.